right, hello and welcome to the Stampscapes live, whatever, presentation of this waterfalls and birch tree composition. Okay, I don't think I've used these birch trees with a waterfall before. If I have, I don't remember. And, even if I have done it before, why not do it again? So, I don't know. Yeah, let's see how this comes out. I just have this kind of vision of, I don't know, just some running water, springtime type of thing. And I'm going to do that. I want a little bit of space, so I'm doing it on a half-page format here. Hello, Diana. Hello, Beverly. Good to see you. Yeah, let's see how this goes. So, half page. Gosh, it feels like I haven't been on here for a month. It's the Mohawk Everyday Digital White Coated Silk. Hello, Tammy. Let's see how this goes here. So I'm creating a decent amount of space here. And we'll work it around a couple of the sets. You can use any type of waterfalls or stream or anything like that. You can do your birch trees lakeside or something like that. So all kinds of different variations we can do. Now I'm doing this on the, hello Sue. I'm doing this on the, slightly closer to matte style of paper because I feel that with my birch trees, I want to use my colored pencils, because this is not easy to go in on a very thin style of trunk here to add in some colors. You can do that with alcohol pens or something like that, but I want some more options, so I'm doing it on more of the matte here. Hello, CM Hawkins and Fran B. Thanks for joining in. Wow, that was fast. Haven't been on in a few days. I've been I had to get caught up with some international orders. And then I had to restock a bunch of stamps and get all that types of activity done, trimming up stamps and restocking and everything like that. So let's see, Tammy, you got your order of Marvy inks. I had some iZinc dye-based inks. Huh. Okay, so tell me, how are they totally different? How would you compare the two? And Tammy, you would have got naturally the re-inkers then, right? If you ordered them directly off of the Uchida website, is it? I'm unfamiliar with iZinc dye-based inks, so I take it that's another brand out there. Okay, so let's see here. Gotta think of a composition here. Let's see, maybe I'll go for 2 waterfalls. Let's see, let's put this over here. Okay, if you just joined in, I am doing this on a half page, 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of the white coated silk. When I say white coated silk, that means white coated silk is another term for that is a semi-gloss. Okay, now, I don't know if there's a range of semi-glosses, like where some semi-glosses like 50% of the glossy part, but most of the semi-glosses that I've seen are much closer to matte in terms of their finish, okay? So I know a lot of papers are difficult to find out there these days, with the sourcing and, I don't know, just the importing problems. A lot of paper mills aren't domestic anymore. I don't know where everyone is, but I don't know, just a really difficult time out there. But, okay, here's the thing about semi-gloss. I find that there's a big difference in glossy cardstocks in terms of the way that I use it, which is a lot of inks layered, okay? But as far as the semi-gloss papers, the dulls, the satin, silk types of finishes, they all, to me, are kind of the same. I still have some of my Appleton papers dull coated semi-gloss, and it's basically the same as this Mohawk one. I bought these things not based on any kind of reviews or anything like that. When I'm in the paper store, I've just kind of felt the paper, and if it feels really, good and it looks good, I've tried it. So, yeah, they're all, I don't know. Those ones I just found that they're, basically, I don't know. I don't feel any difference, okay? I feel that with the glossy, when you have more of that coating on there, maybe they use a different type of coating or something like that, okay? And that affects how I use the inks and ink layering, the dye-based inks. Okay, let's see what we have here. The coverage is very different. It is pronounced is ink. Is ink. Okay, is ink. Got it. Oh, okay. Huh. Okay, so the is ink didn't glide as smoothly, you're saying? And coverage was splotchy. Now, I'm guessing that you're referring to the is ink then, in terms of that one didn't glide, or it was splotchier. Here's the thing. The more okay, inks have this I don't know what it is. I don't know if you refer to it as binder. Pigment in dyes, okay, but that coloring or something, okay? There's whatever thing that they're using, great. Whatever they're using in dye-based inks, okay, there's this, whatever it is, the coloring to binder ratio. The binder in dye-based inks is water, okay? Some inks are they're more dense than others, okay? So there's just a stronger, more intense result when using them, okay? So in basically all the different manufacturers out there, okay? Except for Marvy. Marvy inks were already out there. That's why they call them Marvy matchables, because they use the inks that were already in their pens, okay? So in order to make a raised dye-based pad like this, what they used is this dense foam. Okay, now you can't get these pads anymore because, Marvy's discontinued them, but the way they used their existing inks was they made their foam pad denser, okay? It's a dense foam pad as opposed to a fabric pad. And excellent, Beverly. One less thing, right? You probably need a re-inker though for it. So Marvy came out with just a dense foam pad, but the other manufacturers, in order to make a raised dye-based pad, where the ink's not running out around the sides, was they made their inks thicker, okay? So they had to add in more binder, okay? And to thicken them up, so some of them aren't as rich and dense of a kind of a saturation of ink. So they, it's what Tammy was saying. It just, especially in her comment about splotchiness, okay? So they're a little bit more watery, okay? And that's the thing that kind of Marvy has over them. That's why the Marvy inks look more intense in terms of their saturation. Okay, now that, for me, okay, that's good in general, but I don't want all of my inks to be like super intense. Like if I'm doing like a scene that has, grass or something like that in it. Okay, now there might be an instance where I want things super bright and, kind of crazy in terms of the color saturation and intensity. But I don't want that all the time, so I use other types of pads like, like this distress peeled paint. I have a lot of mementos, and I love them, okay? But they make a good supplement to me. I don't want them only, okay? But that's only because I know Marvy already, so I'll add in like a number 11 green in the reinker form, okay, you can get it in the pen form, but if we're toning in pieces, you can use Marvy inks to supplement any kind of brand of inks that you already have. So you can add in a number 6 brown, and that'll give all of your distress inks a much more rich kind of end result if you're layering your colors, okay? So they make really good supplemental reinkers, okay? They can be, now for me, they're my main inks, but I mix them though, because I don't, like I said, I want like a range of tones. So this is the intensity range, this is a dull, and this is like super intense. I have this full range. Marvy is up here in this range right here, like super intense and rich, okay? And, that's kind of attention getting, but it might be too hot. And the thing about doing artwork and things like that, it's about kind of contrast. So if you want something to look really rich and intense, if everything is rich and intense, I mean, that's okay. But something, if you want to really stand out as rich and intense and, whatever, you want it to stand out, then it's a good thing to add in some things like softer tones and whatnot. So a range of colors is always good, but remember there's always the range in values, light and dark, and then there's intensity, which is bright and dull. But not dull in terms of, interest or something like that, but dull in terms of intensity. And that's what the, distress inks are kind of all about. They're about this aged looking, line of inks. They're supposed to look like antiqued, right? So that's kind of like the opposite of, I would say, what most of the Marvy inks are. So those are a really great combination to have, because you have kind of the different ends of the intensity scale. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you got those inks, Tammy. I'm glad that you like them. I used to try to be, you know, I tried not to kind of point out any inks in particular, just because, I don't want to be using something to say, okay, hey, I would get the Marvies, but I've since stopped doing that and just started saying, hey, it's a good idea to get at least some Marvies. You don't have to replace like every ink that you have out here. One of the nice things about inks is that, like I said, if you're layering your inks and blending them in, you can use 5 dull inks, okay? Let's say you're doing a blue sky. You can use, you already have, Stampin' Up, Memento, Distress, whatever, okay? You can add 5 different layers of blues in there, and you can add in, like, say, one Marvy number 10 light blue, and that will brighten up that whole, or whatever area within that blue field that you have, very sufficiently. You don't have to have, multiple versions of the Marvy to do that. You use both. You maybe use the other pads for, excuse me, your lighter tones or something like that, and then you blend in a Marvy one where you want that kind of impact or whatnot, or just anywhere within there. Usually in scenes, some of the brighter tones too are in the shadow areas. So on this one right here, I'm doing this waterfall. I'll show you what I mean with kind of more intense colors in that shadow area. It's where the light isn't hitting it so much, so it's not getting washed out. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Tammy, I use one of those little pumice sponges, and that ink will come right off. It comes right off. But yeah. It stains. Now here's the thing about Marvies too. Speaking of that, see, she's mentioning that ink is like in her pore. It feels like it's really in the pores. Okay, so the viscosity of the inks is different than the thicker style of ink too. Okay, so these other companies made thicker inks so that they don't come out of this fabric style of pad. Okay, and So they're thicker, so they don't penetrate as much. And the way that dye-based inks work is by penetration, okay? It has to stain your surface, okay? So, you know, it stains the fingers really well. And, you know, it stains the surface of your paper. So sometimes when I'm working with, like, say, all memento inks or something like that, I have 4 layers of memento inks. It's hard to add in another layer on top of that memento unless I kind of heat set a little bit to get that moisture of the surface and pulp to kind of set up a little bit. And then I can add on some more, okay? But the Marvies you can add right on top of there. Hello, Marta. Thanks for joining in. And the Marvies will penetrate right through the thicker inks because they're thinner viscosity. They're thinner, but it's not. But they're intense too. So that's, you know, a really good trait in that blending process. Okay. So okay. So that being said, I should put together a listing of recommended Marvie re-inkers, but you know, like a dozen of them would be great. You know, I mean, you can have a color in each color range, each hue, okay? And it'll work really fantastic. You just add them in whatever color scheme you're doing, and you're going to be really set in terms of your intensity scale. I did notice, I think on their website it said something like, I think it said something like while supplies last or something like that, you know, on those re-inkers. Now I'm guessing they have a lot of re-inkers, maybe not the black though, you know, like Candy's mentioning here. But mini stamp and an empty pad. But no, not necessarily, Candy. Just watch it. Don't over ink that pad though. Okay, and then don't store it upside down or something like that, like we might do with other types of inks. I would store it right side up, and like I said, don't over ink it. You know, kind of leave it in that middle wetness, dryness, or whatever. Okay, so adding in these birch. I'm not even thinking about this scene right here, but okay, now if I was doing this on vellum, I'd throw in some additional trees in the background, birch trees. But like on this, when I'm doing this papers like this, I don't really feel like masking all those off and doing another layer of birch trees. I'm very lazy about that. It's just easy for me to do a vellum thing and just put it right over the top. I don't have to do any masking, so we're just going to leave it like that. So I'm leaving a little bit of an opening for some light to be coming through here, okay? All right, so, but what were we, okay, so on the, what were we talking about? The viscosity? Oh, on colors, you know, yeah, like a listing of like 12 colors or something like that, you know, like this green, brown, there's a blue in there, a couple blues, you know, because we used a lot, we use a lot of blues in scenic stamping, right? So I like the Caribbean blue, the light blue, stuff like that. A yellow would be really fantastic, and a pink, because you layer yellow and blue together, and you have your greens and other versions of greens, and if you layer yellows and orange, reds, then you get your oranges. And then you have your yellow and blue. And then, oh, the blue and the pink get the violets there. Hello, Sandy. So that you kind of get, you know, you have your lighter tones, your primaries, and then you can mix, right? A lot of times, you know, you know, in other forms of stamping, a lot of times people aren't mixing their inks, okay? But when you're doing it on, like, scenic stamping, if you're stamping a scene out and you're layering one color down over the other, you know, you can really take advantage of that and achieve other colors through that layering technique. You don't have to get, you know, 4 different versions of green. A lot of people want them, okay, but you don't have to. You can get a yellow and 3 different blues, and then you layer blues over the yellow or yellow over the blues, and then you have, you know, 3 different versions of green. They're not going to be exactly the same, okay, as getting a green, but, you know, you can get these 3 different values of blue right here, like something like this, right? Okay, not in pad form because their pad form isn't available anymore, but you get these 3 colors right here. There's 3 different blues. Here's one yellow. You add this yellow over these blues right here. That's 3 different versions of green. So you can really kind of, you get more bang for your buck that way. And that's why I'm always telling people to, you know, use their pads, and, you know, when you're using your inks, you're using them in their drier incarnations too. So not only are you getting, you know, if you have 3 different blues and 1 yellow, that's almost like 3 different blues, 3 different greens, and the yellow, okay? But you can use them in all different strengths, so you get all of those colors at their full saturation all the way down to white in every hue, okay? So you got values, intensities, and hue, all just from the way that you use those inks. Happy Monday to you too, Debbie. Marvy stopped making ink pads because, okay, Uchida's a big company, and the Marvy inks are just one thing in their line, and there aren't too many ink pads out there. Can anyone think of any ink pads that are out there that have been out there for, like, say, 20 plus years? Even if in this industry, if this was the art industry, okay, and there was a really good product out there, you know, Winsor Newton oil paints or something like that, the art community keeps using the same stuff. If some painter really likes that, you know, Winsor Newton, whatever, cadmium, whatever, titanium white, okay, they're probably going to keep using that for life, okay? In the crafting community, if there is a, you know, salvia blue Marvy, okay, and it's a really great blue. Now, I get hooked on that, but just in terms of, you know, sales on that type of thing, like the Adirondack pads and the the Ranger line, those were like the hottest things on the market, but those things came out like 25 years ago or something like that. And they just kind of die out just in terms of popularity. Oh, there's this new range of line of inks coming out. I got to get all, you know what I mean? But people don't necessarily just keep buying like the re-inkers for that Adirondack, you know, denim or something like that. So these companies just kind of keep changing up. And okay, so as far as Marvies go, I think these were the best incarnations of pads with this color-coded casing. The fabric was nice and dense, and the inks are completely saturated, okay? But, you know, Uchida of America, who's buying this stuff from Japan, if they wanted to order these pads, they had to order them in groupings of 100,000, okay? So we want a reorder of 104 Caribbean blue. They'd have to order 100,000 of these to make it practical for them to print these up. Now, I wish they would have just saved money and just come out with this blank pad, ink it up, you know, and just say, with a sticker on the back, Caribbean blue, rather than discontinue the pads. But they just you know, they just weren't popular enough. They didn't market them either, okay? You don't really keep marketing a certain line of things for just years and years and years, you know. They market it pretty heavily in the first year or something like that. And if people keep buying them, you know, naturally they'll keep making them. But inevitably, they all kind of, you know, just kind of disappear from the scene, unfortunately. Oh, and the thing about this, too, Uchida has the policy of, which is good for all of us, is that the pads have a certain shelf life. They don't want to sell these after it's been on the shelf in their warehouse for, like, I think it was like a year and a half or 1 year or something like that. And selling 100,000 units of something like this with like all the stores or a lot of the stores gone, it's really difficult. So that's why that they stopped doing that. But I wish they kept selling these pads though, because they can just, these blank pads that you can just ink up with whatever. So yeah, it's sad, but that's definitely the way it goes. Yeah. Hello, Cheryl. Good to see you. Hello, Candy. Oh, the addition of me in the corner. Definitely with the live streams, I had to kind of get that software, so hit the like button, I got to pay for the software. It's a licensing thing. You pay for it by the month. But I figured maybe people don't want just some talking hands moving on these live streams. Okay, so here's what we're doing here. If you just joined in, I'm doing a half-page scene, and we're going to make this I'll make it a kind of a spring birch tree type of setting here. I don't think I've done the waterfalls before with the birch trees. If I have, I don't know. I might have, but I don't remember doing it, so I thought I would try that out. Oh, okay, so here's the thing, too. I also got these new pens right here, and I want to check, I want to use them, and I want to really run them through the, I don't know, gauntlet of, applications. I want to try them on some different types of settings and media, surface combination tests and whatnot, so we'll see how it goes. And this is on kind of the more matte style of paper here. Okay, going on with the Marvy Matchables. Speaking of Marvy, Marvy Matchables. These pens are really good to use. If anyone ever gets Marvy stuff too, take advantage of that. I think when you log onto their site, I think it's still up. But I think if you sign up on our mailing list, your first order is like 30% off. I don't think they've raised their prices on, like the things like pads, re-inkers yet. But some of these pens are really fantastic for, spot coloring your imagery and stamping them out. These are the best pens for inking, in my opinion. Because they're so wide in the tip here. I have some fine tip ones, okay? But when you're using them over these solid styles of images like this leaf here, it's not a problem. But if you start using it over highly textured stamps that have a lot of that stippling on it, it'll kind of shred the pen. Now, if you're only using those pens for that style of coloring, then no problem. But, if you want to do some like specific little areas of color, and if you've used the pens for years over stippled types of artwork, and rubber, it could shred it a little bit. So on something like this tip right here is shred. This pen's like 30 years old though, okay? But I don't need it to be a fine tip because I'm using it just to color wide areas like this. And you can re-ink these pens too, okay? They don't have re-inkers for them, but the Marvy inks are the same colors as the pens. That's why they called them the Marvy Matchables. Okay, let's see here. Color box chalk. Okay. I've never used a color box chalk before. I have tons of the color box pigment inks, but I never got those chalk ones before. It was always the Clear Snap. Color box. I used a lot of color box ones. I didn't stamp the trees first, Debbie, because see, the trees are behind the waterfall here. So you have to stamp out the waterfalls first so I can mask them and then, and then put the trees in there. The only time I would do the trees first, let's say if I had some trees in the foreground like this, and the waterfalls are going to be in the background. Now, like I was mentioning to people before, I don't like doing a lot of masking. So with birch trees, because they're wide open like that, I would have to stamp them out and use some sort of masking method, probably a liquid frisk or something like that. Does everyone know what frisk is? And then I would have to paint them with the liquid frisk and then stamp out my waterfalls, pull them off, and then remove the liquid frisk. And that to me is not fun. So, you know, for me, now I could do those waterfalls behind a bunch of birch trees if I'm doing a vellum type of application where I just put that vellum right on top. I stamp the birch trees on the vellum. I white them out, you know, with some bleed-proof white, and I'm, you know, good to go. I don't have to do any of that. Okay, so adding in these trees like so. Okay, now, see, I know that these inks are transparent, okay? But that's where these, you know, these paint pens are going to, you know, come in handy. So this is the thing that's I really like about there's so much media out there for us these days, and they're at all different price points too. Oops. Let me see here. I need to change my exposure of this. Like the there we go. The adult coloring book market. Thank God that's around. I don't know if any of you have done adult coloring books or something like that. I never did, you know. Usually I don't know too many stampers that did that. But everything that they use, gel pens, paint pens, alcohol markers, it's opened up a lot of different media possibilities for all of us that could utilize those. You know, I mean, how many of you bought like a gel pen, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago that was $3.50? You know, I had a lot of them, especially the white gel pens. You know, they're always on a, you know, individual display at the store, whatever, Michael's, whatever. But now, I don't know, you can get like a set of, I don't know what that latest gel pen set I had was. It was like 70 of them. Or no, it was like 108, 360. It was 180 colors with 180 refills. And it was like, I don't know, $25 or something like that. Insane. Okay, so there we have that. Now we're going to fill all this in. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I did this on the satiny finish piece so that I can go in here and add my colored pencils into here. I should add in some background in there though. That's a little bit too wide open. Let me try to do something with that. Okay, I'll do a little bit of masking, but I won't do a lot. Let's see. Let's use this one back here. I'll do this really lightly too, okay? So you know how I'm always saying make use of your inks and use them in lighter versions and drier versions so you can get a lot more mileage out of them. Okay, so I want this rock here to look like it's farther back in the distance. So you just take it like this and you blot it out once, okay? Let's say I'm not going to use so much of the bottom of this either, so I'm going to wipe some of that off like that, okay? So it's already dry because I stamped it out once, right? Maybe I stamped it out too much, I don't know. And then let's just go like this. That's your mask right there. And then I'll put this right back in here. I won't go up too high, but so I don't need to really mask off that side because I'm not going into that tree. Okay, and go like that. And you get your rocks kind of farther back in the distance like that. Now I really don't, well, I guess I could put a little bit of rock formation in there. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that. I thought, okay, that's stamped out light enough. It's not going to be any hassle to mask off things. And it doesn't have to be so continuous. Okay, I'm going to put that rock right back in here. Here's my mask like this. Okay, we'll go like that I just want a little bit of texture. If I don't get a perfect application of it, if it gets cut off a little bit, you know, no big deal. Okay, like that, and let's go like this here. It's probably going to be so light, I don't know if it'll even show up here. Let's try it. All right, so there's just some little formations in the back like that, right? I don't know, those look pretty good. I might have to add in some more over here. So yeah, people think, oh my God, you know, that's so, you know, when they look at the end result, a lot of people are telling me, oh, that's, you know, it's way too Hey, no one's lazier than I am when it comes to stamping. I'm not looking for, you know, like a complicated process that's going to take me forever. Now, I might do a large scene, but, you know, the steps are not complicated. I'm looking for the easiest application possible, believe me. Okay. Okay. So see there's some rocks. I mean, they didn't match up exactly, but again, that's going to be all colored in. Yeah, a little bit of space right in here. You do the coloring books, Fran? There's some really cool ones out there. It's fascinating to me that that whole kind of thing came about, the, you know, the whole coloring book type of thing. I used to really like this. There was this company called, I think it was Doodle Art. This is back in the 70s. And they did these gigantic posters of different types of things. Back then, it was like real kind of early 70s kind of like looking stuff. I think the one that we got was called Mythology, and I think I got another one, but it came with a set of markers and this gigantic poster that we can color in, you know. But other than that, you know, I was doing coloring books, but it was like kind of getting older, and you know, that kind of coloring poster was kind of a little bit more advanced, and it was really fun. It was like, I don't know, it was like putting together a puzzle or something like that with the family, you know. Everyone kind of sits around and they're all coloring their own section. But back then, you know, you were limited to that one set of pens, so it, you know, really went dull. You know, a lot of the colors went, you know, we went through the colors very quickly. All right, so that looks a little bit more deep in terms of space, right? Okay, but look at this right here. Everything is super textural, right? Okay, so we're going to mellow this out. Okay, now this is where lighting comes into play. Okay, so when I say lighting, I'm talking about basically shadows. Okay, and where we add in color in here, if we retain light in certain areas, that is going to be lighting. Okay, so you're manipulating lighting through the use of shades. So so a beginner, when they look at something like this, okay, they're often thinking about these types of rock formations and everything in here. Okay, these are rocks, and they color it in uniformly, uniformly in terms of values. Okay, so like one color might be used over this whole space, whole thing again. This water might be blue or something like that. Okay, but what I'm saying is when we go in and we do our coloring, do less coloring, because that's basically what it is, okay? And when you do less coloring and when you retain certain areas that are lighter than others, it doesn't have to be the white of the paper, but when you get into your darker tones, just retain some of these areas. So on these stamps right here, I've already defined a lot of the light and shade in here. So you can see this is darker in here. You know, there's this lighter area over here. So I'm going to retain a lot of that light. These rocks down here, you know, they're kind of bottom shaded, so they're top lit, okay? So you kind of retain some of those areas that are a little bit light. Like I said, I think it would look a little bit too stark white if we just left it white. But when we go in here, I'll retain these top areas of light for the most part, okay? I'm going to take into consideration things like trees, casting shadows, and things like that, you know, a little bit, and directing light down here in the water too. So instead of this uniform application of let's say blue in here or something like that, there's going to be areas of light in here, and that's going to vary it and give it a more interesting look, okay? So like I said, if you're kind of confused as far as what to do, all you need to do is just kind of go in here initially and just darken your shadows, and that'll give you a really good head start in terms of your coloring. I'm going to do it from kind of a light to dark style of application here, and you'll see how I kind of manipulate more of the medium to darker tones there. Let's see, who did those posters? Candy's mom did those posters. Doodle art. Pit pens, correct. What's pit pens? Fill me in on that, Candy. I don't know what those are. Areas you miss while masking or printing. My answer is no, because I don't know what that is, even. But okay, so my masking, yeah, I mean, that's a good point though too. Say I stamped out those trees and oh, there's this big gap in between this tree and this one. Okay, now on these birch trees, I would just draw a line in with a black pen going all the way down there. But see this like tree right here? I mean, this tree right here is going into this waterfall like that. It's very clear to see, all those different types of things, but I don't really worry about that because all of this area in here is going to be toned in to some degree anyway, and that's going to cut down the contrast between all of these areas that we might have missed or whatever, okay? And on top of that, as I've mentioned in my other things, you go in there with something like white into these areas, and it really changes kind of the look and feel of the entire scene by putting another layer on top of everything, okay? It's in front of everything, but it also really subdues all those little types of, kind of, I wouldn't call it a mishap, but all those little things, all those little detailed areas that might not be, I don't know, kind of contributing to the overall visual health of your scene, we'll call it. Okay. All right, so what colors do you do on something like this? I mean, you can do anything. I mean, these rocks in here could be, somewhere in some, I don't know, area where there's, red and, a lot of reds in there or something like that. You can do them those colors. You can do them grays and blues or something like that, or you can give them more of a darker look. You can make them brown if you want to, okay? It's really whatever you want. I'm going to go, for the most part, with some blues in here, and I'll use some grays, why not? And I'll just kind of go from there. So I'm kind of starting a little bit neutral, okay? And then I can move into my other tones, all right? Okay, so that being said, let's get into it. Why don't I start off with some of this gray here, the London fog. If you don't have gray, you can use a black, but just really blot it off quite a bit before you take it in here. If you want to use other types of coloring methods, you can, like, colored pencils. If you're going with colored pencils, though, pretty much, that's your medium, okay? I wouldn't try to apply too much of your dye-based inks over colored pencils because you're going to be trying to apply it on wax, okay? So if you're going to use the colored pencils like I am, I'm going to use that after my applications of dye-based inks here. So yeah, but yeah, pit pens. What's a pit pen? Pit pen, as in Pittsburgh pens? Joking. Okay, so here I am adding this tone onto these rocks right here. Okay, but watch what I'm doing here though, okay? See, I'm leaving my tops of my rocks a little bit lighter, right? So it looks like the light is kind of hitting it from the top right there. So that's what I mean about coloring and lighting, okay? You're coloring for color, but you're also coloring for lighting, okay? So that's the difference between a lot of different styles of coloring, okay? A lot of times, if a design is made of outlines with no tone, then we're typically coloring in the whole thing, okay? You're going for a smooth application of ink, right? To fill in a set space, okay? But on this one right here, okay, these are tonal designs, so I'm kind of following a lot of the tone that's already been established in the design itself. So I'm putting some of this like that, and now look at how those rocks seem a little bit more rounded and tonal, okay? And that's just simply by not coloring that top part, okay? Now I can, I'll add in some other tones, and you'll see this kind of this color scheme and lighting scheme developing, okay? Like I said, I don't want to just leave it just stark white, so I'll probably put in some other colors in there, but look at that. Look at that lighting starting to develop down here. Here's my water, and I'm putting this tone in the water right there. Permanent ink, huh? I'll have to look them up. Maybe they're not on anymore. And does anyone else use pit pens to correct areas? You know, it doesn't have to be just me answering here. Although they were directing it to me, but yeah, I don't know. Fill in if you know the answer to any of these things, and if you've used them. I'm kind of curious about it myself. Okay, I heard they have India ink in them. Oh, okay, huh. They're well, what are they though? Are they? Okay, they're pens. Oh, okay, so they're like a permanent pen. India ink. India ink is just black though, right? All right, so see that little shade in the background? So let's take a look here and see how this kind of lighting is developing in here. I'm gonna have some light coming through here too, by the way. And I like my water to be nice and light, okay? So I'm going to leave that fairly light. It doesn't mean I have to leave it white, but you know, I'll put in some blue tinges in there. A lot of times people, they think, I think what they called it was local color, okay? It's where kind of people do what they think something should be. So skies are blue, okay? Or something like that. Skies are always blue. Grass is green, you know. And the blue they might be thinking of is going in with something like, I don't know, like this blue right here, okay? So the thing about that is, like churning water tends to look very illuminated because there's all this, you know, moisture in the air being illuminated by light, so it looks very light, okay? So it's good to kind of reference something. Not, you know, I mean, if you're just starting off with scenic stamping, you're thinking, wait a minute, what color do I do my water or something like that? Then just look at a waterfall scene. I mean, I still do it myself, you know, and it's good to kind of reference these things. Like I look at fall foliage photos a lot, just to see like if there's a little hint of some red in your, you know, like aspen trees even, or something like that, or oranges or something like that. And it's a good way, you know, it's like you're just kind of using Mother Nature as kind of a guide, and then you have to translate it into the, you know, the different media and colors you have. So always good. And then once you do it once, then you have kind of this nice kind of foundation, and you kind of develop your technique in terms of what you use and when you use it in your process, okay? And like I said, I do it all the time. I don't do it enough. I should look at more of photographs and things like I've shown people the Hudson River School of Landscape Painters, so you can look at paintings too. Paintings are really good in terms of, you know, an artist's interpretation of the landscape. So they're introducing things like emotional types of considerations and applications into their paints and whatever to make things look more dramatic, right? Yeah, it's really great in terms of expression. Fran, I'm using the ultra high tech applicator called the life-changing ink blending tool. In other words, it's like a roll of bounty or whatnot. But okay, here's the thing with that though. When you do this thing, I mean, this is kind of important, but when I'm rolling this up, okay, see, I can apply ink with, let me see if I get this to focus. Okay, like that right there, okay? That's going to give me all kinds of textures on the surface, when I'm applying it like that, right? So you try to get it, just have a nice smooth area, almost like you're creating like a finger, right? And then my finger just goes right in there. So it's like, kind of in an extension of your finger. So it's, it's real comfortable, this notion to go in like this, It's almost like you're smudging around pastels or something like that. That's almost kind of the spirit. Now, naturally, with using dye-based inks like this, they're wet applications, but when I'm using it like this, look at this right here. This is on just cheap, copy paper, right? And you can get these really nice, smooth applications like this. But here's the thing. You just have to get the consistency, right? And get your buildup of values and intensity with repetition, okay? And that way you get a lot of control over it. So if I'm going into an area that I don't want a lot of it used, I'm never going to apply very much of it because it's just such a dry applicator like this, right? I mean, one paper towel can do the whole scene too, okay? So let's that being said, let's move on into another color here. Okay, so that was your London fog. I don't always use London fog, so don't say that, okay, I have to use London fog. I mean, a lot of times, I don't know. I hardly ever use it a lot of times, so. Hello, Phyllis. Good to see you. Coming along here. Building it up. Okay, here's some summer sky. See, we haven't even used the Marvies yet, except for the tones up there. So a lot of times I like to build up my values through kind of lighter and duller tones, right? I don't want to go in with something like super hot and bright. So that way I have a lot of control over it in terms of my application. Okay, so here's the blue, right, see? And I'm adding this into my waterfall area. Okay, so I'm coming into the grays and then I'm kind of blending this in. But look how soft that is, right? And that's, that's right out of the pad here. Okay, see this right here? You just kind of build it up nice and slow. Now, a lot of times, it's really when people just start doing something like this, okay? They go like this with a much darker tone or brighter tone. They go like that, and oh my God, this is like really hard to blend in, okay? People just aren't used to, when they first do this, applying such a dry application. They don't want to go like this and get like a 2% version of that color, you know what I mean? It's very weird. So it's almost like my thought process with this, it's almost like we're applying like a powdery version of this wet light ink, okay? So that's why, that's where it's just kind of I don't know, it's like a inking color application culture shock, you know what I mean? They go like this and they think, hey, this doesn't feel right. I can't see anything, So they apply more and more. But, I mean, you could go in with a faster approach, okay? I just think this is just like so much more, I don't know, controlled and easy because you don't really get an application that's not desired, okay? Because it's going on so slow that it is really hard to apply something, an amount of something that you don't want, okay? Now, that being said, you should kind of be mindful and, take a look periodically at what you're doing, because it's easy to focus in on one little spot on a piece that you're working on, and then to look up and say, it's like we're working like right here, and we're just kind of focused on this. It's more so when we get down to like little detailed types of things, but you know, and then we go like this, and if it was like too hot a blue or so, you know what I mean, something like that, it might kind of sneak up on you or something like that. But you know, just kind of apply it and keep an eye on what you're doing. See, I mean, I can barely see any of that blue, and I'm sitting right in front of it right here at my table, okay? But see that? I mean, it just barely shows up, right? Okay? And this is what the thing too. When you do your inks like this, you can get so much mileage out of every color that you have because you can use a very dry version of it, right? So you can get every version of this blue all the way down to, you know, very dull, very super light blue. Coming out okay, Diana? You like it already? It's kind of getting there, huh? I don't think I'll take this one too dark. I do like the, it kind of has a soft kind of pastelish lighting to it, right? Okay, now I am putting some of this over on my areas that were white, okay? But it's just a little tinge of that blue in there, okay? But okay, now here's the thing. Here's what I always mention in my videos, okay? I'll move into my next value of blue. Let's go with the Memento. This looks really similar to the Marvy 10, but it's a lot duller than the Marvy one. So if you can go with lighter and duller before you go to a hot one potentially, you know, then do that. If this one's all you have, ink it up, blot it off quite a bit to make it lighter and duller before the application, okay? All right, so adding this in, and see, I added in the, you know, these little darker areas first to get an idea of what it's looking like before I go into my lighter areas like that, okay? So that's where all that control kind of comes into play. And I'm saying this just, you know, if you're just starting this off, I mean, you can go in and do much more kind of a, you know, expressionistic types of applications, you know, where you're doing color applications with showing your stroke, you know, your brush strokes and everything like that. And I think that's really cool too. But I'm just talking about this in terms of, you know, kind of starting off right there. But see that, look at that blue, and see that blue over there? I mean, this is just a little bit darker than this. But this is where I'm adding in those brighter tones into the shadow areas, okay? In here, where the lighting is kind of striking that area, it's a little bit more washed out, right? So you put your brighter tones in your shadow areas like that. So see this right here? And I'm just kind of putting it at the base of these rocks, but look at that glow starting to happen. And that just took a little bit of ink like that. See that area in there? It looks much more rich in terms of the saturation, okay? I mean, it's not ultra bright or anything like that. I mean, we could try. Not that I want to go for super ultra bright, but just, you know, kind of making the point of it. See that this rock right here? Now, remember, there's shadows underneath that rock already, so I'm just kind of following the design of that. Okay. Adding this right in here, okay? So see that kind of intensity starting to come about? And that's, you know, all it really took. I can put some back on these rocks in the background. No, it's not water, but, you know, water tends to reflect, or, you know, lighting tends to reflect on objects around it. So I can put some of this in here like so. And see, it's darker in there on the design, so I'm just darkening that in like that, okay? So you kind of create this little bit of a push and pull, but things don't have to be just kind of, you know, it's not like this explosive type of change happened like with one tap or application of whatever applicator you're using. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I'm using this right here, okay? Like a full saturation here by contrast is this, right? But you just use, you know, just kind of wipe this off like this, and now using that. Okay. It's easy stuff, but okay, you know, like I said, if someone just hasn't, you know, done that type of thing before, it's just kind of a weird thing to be going like this and to not see anything, okay? But you see it, you know, the color with a few taps like that. Or, you know, little swatches. You can go like this too, you know, you can use whatever type of movement you want. All right, okay, so that is that. It's all about the layering, huh, Sue? With everything except for, I think foils. Foils, not too many, layers with that. But it's because it won't let me. It's like one layer, but kind of a varied layer of thicknesses. Okay, so going in with this, I think we can use a little of this in the sky, right? Okay. I'm going right over my birch trees because I can add in some additional white onto them. That's one of the great things about the paint pens, you know. So I don't have to mask them off or anything like that. I'm putting some blue up into these trees, just going right over that green. Blue is a component of green. I would even do it if it was like, you know, fall tones and yellows and oranges though, you know, because I'm not about to go in and mask those off. As I say that, I was thinking, oh, I forgot about my my embossing pens here. I can stamp those out again, like on top, and do some like embossing. I don't know if I'll do that though. I wasn't kind of thinking about doing embossing on this, so I don't know. We can always change, right? Or add. Remember this, everyone. Art. The definition of art is the difference between the end result and the initial concept. I don't know. That's one definition. I like that one because it gives us kind of permission, or not only permission, but it encourages variation between kind of, you know, it teaches us to be flexible. You know, you go into something like this and, you know, you're open for change and, you know, changing course or something like that, or maybe in the way to get to something too, you know what I mean? We can get, you know, to something, the end result in many different ways, or you can just change up. You can add things or, you know what I mean? It's like you're doing something and, oh, you know, I think this might be better. So you just kind of go off in that direction. You kind of let the, as I used to say, it's kind of like you have to kind of let the scene kind of guide you in some ways. I kind of know what my layout was going to be here and initial things, but, you know, as I start doing this, other things start to reveal themselves that, like from here on, there really aren't any kind of set notions about what this piece was going to look like to me. Okay, I haven't done this scene before, so it wasn't like I'm. There are some scenes that I might do something where I might go into it and try to tweak something or improve on something that, you know, kind of I felt was lacking, or I can speed up some sort of process or eliminate processes too. And I do that for some of these scenes like this. I'll do some videos and I'll do like a quick scene version. It's like, oh, I didn't need to do this, this, and this. I can just cut that out, you know, or here's a faster way to do it. So sometimes I mean, occasionally there's a piece like that. But most of them, you know, most of them I'm seeing those, I don't know, not even just the end result, but, you know, the you know, a lot of the preliminaries for the first time along with everyone else. All right, so adding in this Caribbean blue, it's a little bit more of a warm blue. It kind of changes the spirit of it, doesn't it? By adding in that little bit of warmth into that blue color scheme. I don't know, it's friendly, right? When you add a little bit of warmth into something, it really changes the spirit of it. Sometimes it's not so, you know, it might just be in one little area or whatnot, but I don't know. I didn't use Caribbean blue for a long time because it wasn't in the initial, I think, 30 pad release from Marvy, okay? And I didn't have it in pen form either. I used to use the Marvy brush markers all the time. Only Marvy brush markers. That's what everyone used to use in stamping. But yeah, then they released another 10 colors in the matchables pads, and Caribbean blue was one of them. So it kind of filled in my I don't know, whatever temperature range in my blue tones. Let's see, what did Candy tell her first graders? There are no mistakes, just new opportunities. That, I love that. Okay, I am going to add in a little tinge of this pear tart here. Okay, I'm going to put it on a little bit on my rocks, so it will give them a little bit of this mossy kind of rainforesty look in the shadows here. And it'll also tie them in a little bit with the, you know, the green leaves up above, right? Okay, so I don't want this. Okay, well, that's not too bad. Okay, I just don't want this. Okay. So let's add some of this in here. Happy accidents, yes. And I always say, I always hear my beginning painting teacher's voice when I'm thinking about. It's not really mistakes, because I don't see things like that at all. You know, things that occur. But if I'm thinking about doing something and I'm not sure if I want to, I hear her saying, I don't know, she said this a lot, but she said, it's not precious, you know, so it's like just saying, you know what I mean? Just go for it. See if you know, add it in there. See if you like it. Okay, so add in a little bit of green. I added too much, okay? So let's mellow that out a little bit with some black, okay? And then we'll start going in with our colored pencils and paint pens and things like that. Now, I like establishing, you know, the coloring in scenes, but I really like doing all those little detailed types of things. Okay, now say what I'm doing on this is I'm kind of narrowing my little applicator down. So instead of like my index finger, it's like the size of my pinky maybe, or something like that. Okay, for a little bit more of a detailed area, going in with a kind of more of a, oh, I don't know, maybe like a 20% gray or something like that, and then just adding it in like so. And I can add in a little bit more of this shadow type of I don't know, whatever area into these pieces like so. Okay, see this like here, I'm kind of deepening that shadow. Look how great that shadow looks now, and look how anchored the rocks look now too. Okay, it's not black, it's just going into this version of gray like that. Okay, going into the shadow area down here. It's really setting the rocks into the scene. It could be anything. Could be, you know, you could stamp a deer or something like that or whatever, and you put a little shadow underneath it, and it gives the image that visual weight, and it makes those objects more substantial, okay, and anchored in. It's like a nice foundation in there of I don't know, I guess it's stability or something like that too, you know, when you do that. Okay, now see this right down here? See, I'm anchoring that bottom part of that rock. So see this black part down here? It's not really black, it's just kind of a darker, you know, gray, in other words. You know, it's like a 80% gray. But see up here, I used that, the blue and the gray. So again, it's not just going over the whole thing like that. It's, you know, we're coloring or toning for lighting, okay? So it's like this too. You can kind of vary it a little bit. I'm just putting some right here, and you can leave this part, you know, just as is. See this one right here? Let's anchor this one down a little bit. Let's just go right here in the corner like this. And what you do is when you're applying this type of thing, you just apply a little bit and then take a look at it and see how it's developing, you know, hold it at arm's reach, and you get a good idea of the overall, okay? Now see this area right down here in my water? Okay, now I have a waterfall right here, so I'm not going to do this over here, but see this little shadow area right in here? Let's do this kind of zoomed out like this so you can kind of get a good idea of how this is kind of affecting it, hopefully. Let's see, so like that, okay. See that right there? See that shadow right down here? See, it kind of brings in the viewer's attention in here a little bit too. So that's kind of going with a little bit of this vignette type of vehicle of kind of darkening areas around on your perimeter. Okay, let me put that up here too, okay? Now up here, it's a little bit lighter. You know, we have our trees, so I'll just put a little bit of this on the corners like this. It's probably like at most, like a 10% value of gray using the black, okay. See, I'm kind of going like this around this corner like that. And that corner is a little bit more closed off than this one, okay. Maybe maybe I need to get a little bit more, but you know, you can always add more. And that's always easier to do, just add it in as much as you want than going too far and saying, oh my God, that's too dark, and then having to do other types of things to kind of, kind of remedy that. Okay, so see that right there? See how it's kind of closing it off over there, but see how everything is kind of getting a little bit more contained from that compositional sense. So that, you know, I feel this is getting lighter here too, by putting in this little bit of tone in that corner area like that. See, it's kind of bringing the viewer's attention more in this area now. All right, so that is that. Let's go on in here and let's see, let's grab some pencils. How about maybe a little bit of a sepia. There's a brown. Some kind of blue gray, slate gray, something like that. You don't need to write these down. You know, I don't have any plan with it, okay? All right. Raw umber, okay? Let's add some of these tones down here on these trees and whatnot. Distress Oxide inks. No, I haven't. I do need to try that, though. Who here has tried them? Has anyone done the oxides with that, that application and then that water reactive kind of splattering before, and then stamped on top of it? I love that look, especially for skies. I've seen it used a lot of different times, and I love that look. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to put my light source. It just, stands to reason that the strongest light source is going to be in this big open area, okay? I mean, I could have had it over here, but in scenes, I usually do it, rule of thirds type of thing. Sometimes it's in the middle, but rarely. But so this is your rule of thirds type of thing, like this, okay? Goes like that, that. But, the source of light, I don't have a moon or something like this or anything officially like that in here, but this is probably where someone's eye is going to go, just because it's this big open light and it's like, go into the light type of thing. We look for light sources. So someone's probably going to look like this And then they'll probably go in here and wander around like this in this area here, but that's my light source. Okay, so that being said, when I'm toning in, coloring in some of these trees like this, what I'm getting at is, color in the sides of, or shade the sides of the trunks here that are shaded. So the far ends of the trunks, far side of the trunk for that shadow area. Okay. Now this one's like over here in the darkness. I don't really need to pay attention too much to this one. So right side shading on the right side of the scene, or right side of the light, I should say, and left side shading the trees left of the right, okay? Left of the light. Let's see. Oh, great for, oh, the oxides, huh? Yeah, I don't know. How many oxide colors are there? Okay. And the oxides are good for blending. That's interesting. What's the consistency of the oxide inks in comparison to the dye-based inks? Are they, I take it they're thicker, right? They look thicker to me. When I see pieces, that people have done. Now, what does that mean? 437. Thicker, chalky, opaque. Yeah, that's what that looks like to me. Okay, now see this one, I'm going in with these trees. Color them a little bit irregular, so don't just color up the entire side, kind of break it up a little bit. Maybe, on that first color I kind of did, fairly uniform. But now, kind of when you start moving into your medium darker tones, kind of break it up. So I'm going like this, you know what I mean? Like this. I might put some shadow like that there or here, you know what I mean? Because it stands to reason that there'd be light kind of coming through some of these leaves and not hitting something, completely uniform, okay? All right, so that's, I don't know, that's some of that slate. Here's a little bit more brown again. I don't want to use too much brown. There's not a lot of brown in birch trees. Wait a minute. Hybrid dye and pigment. A lot of pigments are oil-based, though. I do have some pigment hybrid inks. I wonder if they're a water-based pigment ink then. The person that has their inks, their hybrid inks made, they weren't even quite sure of the chemistry of them as the manufacturer. I don't know if they didn't tell them or whatever, but that's something that I'd like to know so that I can utilize the applications accordingly. If it'd be good to know if they're going to work on certain types of papers, dry on certain types of papers, dissolve and blend. But I had a really good time with my pigment inks. And in fact, I need to use some of those, or the hybrid inks. I need to use those hybrid inks again. I love that. Oh, I don't know. It's almost like, I feel like I'm working with some kind of more liquid version of like a, oh, like an oil pastel or something like that. But yeah, a little chalkier though. Huh. Wait a minute, there's more distress oxides now than regular distress. That surprises me. Because distress inks dye-based inks are so popular. Huh. I don't know. Yeah, I need to, take a look at those. All right, so developing these trees. Now, see, the trees trunks have a lot more in common now with the rocks because they are now shaded. Okay, so kind of coming together a little bit more like that. Okay. Now, see, where I'm shading the dark side of the tree, okay, I will illuminate the light side of the tree with my white acrylic paint pens, okay? All right, now just going in here, you can add in some additional tones in very specific areas with your colored pencils, okay? Kind of keep in mind, don't go in with colored pencil and just eradicate all of your lighting now or something like that, so you can just kind of reiterate what you've done or what the designs have, in terms of textures and lighting. I mean, getting in, into fine details with this isn't very conducive, where, a fine tip is. So, um, hmm. Yeah, okay, so that pigment, oh, okay. So yeah, that's got to be a dry, okay, so that's a water-based pigment ink then. I'll give them a try sometime. Oh, I take it the hello, Froggy Fresh. I take it they have re-inkers, right? For those inks. Oh, and what is the drying time on the oxides? Do they dry really quickly? I'm doing well. Hope you're doing well. We're just sitting there. We're discussing oxides. Oxides. I don't get notifications when you go live, huh? Some other people mention that. Now, do you get notifications of other channels? Hello, Cindy in Wisconsin. What time is it in Wisconsin right now? Is it 7:37 or are you Eastern Standard Time? Love those North Woods in Wisconsin. I'm glad that I taught in Wisconsin when I had a chance to. There used to be so many stores in Wisconsin. Uh, okay, you let them dry overnight. Okay. But otherwise, so they're not going to dry quickly then, right? Would they dry? Now, it depends on where we are. If we're in Arizona, then things are drying really quickly, or, something like that. But, oh, they're really waxy. Interesting. I thought some of this was a chalky, so they're chalky waxy kind of feeling. They do have that 838 East. I got it. Um, the thing that I like about the oxides, I like it when that water kind of soluble type of thing, where someone like splatters, the applications with water, and then it has that kind of that bleaching look where it kind of separates, and it has that kind of that stronger rim on the outside, almost like alcohol inks in a way, or something like that. I do like that texture. Um, Huh. I don't know what to say, Frog. Make sure that you're allowing for notifications in your system preferences as well, not just clicking that, but sometimes the system preferences aren't set to allow, like, say, YouTube or your browser to, the notifications have to be allowed in the system preferences as well. So, there's on like Macs, you go and check a couple different boxes under the notifications settings. Okay, so this black is working out great here. I love going in and being able to color specific areas. Okay, now see, in this water right here, a little bit too stark, you know, white, right? Now I usually take care of that with my dye bastings, but since I'm doing this on the matte paper right here, I'm just going in with these pencils, okay? But here's what I like to do. I like to leave the base of these especially nice and light, like it's, you know, we got this churning water, right? So let's go, this almost looks like that Caribbean blue. This is aquamarine. It's almost like this, huh? So let's do that. Okay, so oxides take a bit longer. Oh, you can emboss oxides, huh? Yeah, interesting. Okay, now see, I'm not coloring in every bit of this water, but you just want to get a hint of this color in there, okay? Like something like this. So don't color the whole thing otherwise. See, when you leave things lighter, you're creating a visual path for the viewer's eye to travel up through the stream. If you kind of block it all out, and let's say that's in the darkness, okay, you kind of discontinue that path. People want to go into the light, basically, okay? You know, it's like a poltergeist, joking. But yeah, you know, we're drawn to light things, you know, follow the yellow brick road, you know, this illuminated thing, you know, going into the light like that. So don't close that off for the viewer, okay? So see down here, something like this, I'm just going to, you know, do some of this right into this. I'm kind of following the path of the stream like this. So you get that little hint of it down there. I mean, you can you know, come in here and add more if you want to, wherever. Like that. But now we have this light in here. Okay, you can have some, you know, maybe this area back in here is in the little stream areas in the shadows, but you can get that nice illumination back there like that. Here's this in a little stream like this, or fall. You can put some of this blue onto some of your rocks, you know, reflecting some of that color in here too. But again, you can always use this like that. You don't have to use this, right? So, like I said, it's, you know, I barely even need to pay attention because I'm adding so little media at any given time here. So, yeah. Thanks for joining in, Phyllis. Have a great rest of evening. Okay, a little bit more blue like so. All right. It's looking really mellow and nicely blended. I guess when I'm trying to make a point on blending, maybe I'm blending a little bit smoother on this scene right here. I don't want to talk about, you know, blending and kind of the, you know, gradual application of things like that, and to get some kind of like stark, you know, kind of application, which I do get in my scenes, okay, and I get it a lot, but I just blend it out more. But in this process, in this scene, I'm probably being a little bit more careful, being that, you know, it's kind of like the point I'm trying to make. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so I want to add in some additional layers in here, okay? Now, they're going to look a little bit out of place, okay, as I first added in here in terms of the opacity and textures, but that's where the white pigment ink at the end blends it all in anyway, okay? Oxides are opaque and dyes are translucent. Well, dye-based inks are usually transparent as opposed to translucent. But the oxides are real. How opaque are they? So the oxides, if you layer one over the other, it's. I'm guessing. Are you sure you can't see the other colors underneath? And if you layer one oxide over the other, is it putting the bottom layer back into solution and mixing with that top layer? Or is it like dyes where it's like, you know, one goes over the other and it's not necessarily mixing with it? I mean, sometimes the dyes mix, but they're not supposed to, too much at least. I don't know. I need to try some. Or you know, if someone has a link, you know, to some of the pieces you've done, send me a link to look at. Send me an email though, like stampscapes@gmail.com. Once dry, has the look of oxidation. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's what I thought. They react. They go back into solution, right? Stamp backgrounds. Well, which backgrounds are you thinking about, Sandy? You should let me know, and I don't know, I can kind of point you into some direction. Okay, so this is all right. Now this set right here is this new set that I got, but they don't have like a light green in here. Okay, so I'm going to do a little mixing and matching here. Actually, okay, so here's what I'm doing here. This is excellent. So who mentioned that the translucency and opacity? Marta. Um, that's exactly the things that I look for in these types of pieces, right? Okay, so these graffiti pens, I love these, okay? But sometimes when I'm adding these into my piece, and then I add another color over the top of it, that color over the top of it looks like it's, you know, very distinctive from the one underneath, but I find that when these dry, the other color kind of comes through in a much more, you know, kind of moving towards transparency. It's either that or it's physically mixing with the bottom layer. So these ones right here are said to have a higher pigment ratio, you know, to binder content, you know, ratio. So they're more opaque. So that's what I will test here, okay? I have a feeling that in this scene right here, it's going to stand out a little bit. So we'll get, you know, I'll show you how blending all of this in will come into play. Okay, so here's this green, and I'm going to add some of these in, like so. Like this. Let's zoom in a little bit here. So see this right here? It looks fairly opaque, which is, of course, what I'm going for here. But I mean, some of these leaves could be behind the tree too. Maybe I'll do both. But I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so I've added a dot like down here, okay? But watch as this dries. Okay, I'll do some over here, and then we can watch this kind of area dry. So see, that looks fairly opaque, right? But look at these ones right here. So that's starting to set up and dry, and it dries much more integrated. Okay, now that could be a good thing though too, because it just, you know, when we add in things like that, it kind of blends in, right? And blending in is not bad. So, you know, I can use the more transparent, translucent touch with these, but when I want some impact and depth, I can go with the more opaque ones. I don't know, it's getting, you know, I didn't used to use so much different media, you know, but I got into foils and things like playing around with vellum, and it just opened up a lot of doors, which in some ways I didn't want too many doors open because I just know that I'll, you know, go down and explore them all, you know, because it's really fun, but I don't know, it's just too late to close that door. It's just, there's so many different options now. So I am kind of exploring. I am getting, okay, so I have these pens like this, these graffiti ones, right? But then when I use them, it's like, you know, I need more opacity because it's, you know, it looks a little bit, see, like I can't even see the dots that I added on this branch now at all anymore. Now these ones are a little bit more freshly applied, so they're, you know, you can see them more apparently. I mean, I am getting a little bit of depth, you know, with these applications of dots over here. But see, like this, see this, how it's drying, and you get a little bit of that texture in there, okay? So I'm getting a little bit of opacity going over these branches, okay? But it's definitely integrating, okay? So that comes down to that pigment to binder ratio, okay? These ones just are, you know, they're cheap pens. They're really inexpensive, you know? So it's really integrating like that and just blending in where you can barely see it, okay? Which isn't bad because when you're applying it, it's like a darker version of it. So you can play with depth within those kind of textural applications, okay? All right, so that being said, maybe I don't need to be too worried about going into these really dark areas and having this kind of stand out too much, because I just know that when dry, it'll kind of blend in a little bit more, okay? But see this right here, this is where it's really good. See, I could see those birch tree trunks showing right through my leaves before, but now you go in with this, this paint right here, and it's breaking that up, so you get some of those tree branches in front of that, these trunks now, giving it that depth. All right, so that is that. Look at that, how much that really disappeared like that. But it took care of that trunk though, so it broke up the trunk. All right. Okay, so I'll check out those tutorials there. Oh, Froggy, yeah, it just depends, Rocky Fresh. If you want like the single quote type of things, like autumn, spring, fall, then Scenic Sentiment number 6 or 7 are kind of about those ones, the single quotes. And then if you want something about the skies, definitely number 2. And then the other ones are kind of like, like traveling or something like that, like roads or something like that, or some are about kind of more general about nature. So it really just depends on kind of what scenes you want them to go with. So they're kind of designed roughly around that type of those types of themes, okay? So on something like this, if I wanted to use a Scenic Sentiment, there's not very much space in here to, stamp it out. So, like one word stamp in here would fit, or, down here, peace or something like that. Okay, let's go in with this one right here. Let's go in with a little bit of yellow. Okay, so I'm building this up, okay? Trying to create a little bit of a shimmery type of look. Look at that right there. But see that, I bet you anything that yellow just kind of integrates, okay? So it'll look a little bit farther back. Then I'll try these latest ones and see if I can get more of a, strong opacity with it, okay? So one of the things that I like, with leaves in person and in a scene like this, what I'm usually going for is I'm try to catch that spirit of a leaf being, not opaque. So you get this lighting kind of showing right through leaves, and they're real shimmery, right? You want these leaves to kind of almost be, I don't know if it looks like they're in motion, but just kind of like a little bit, kind of alive like that. So they kind of sparkle like that. And that's where these paint pens really come in handy. I didn't used to do this, but when I started using these thicker paint pens last year, and then things opened up with, the multiple sets, multi-color sets of, the extra fine ones, then I started doing it more and more, and it's like, oh, that pretty much solved the problem I've always had with applying light on dark, okay? With dye-based inks, we're talking about this with layering and everything like that, with the oxides and stuff like that. My problem in the past has always been applying light on dark and getting those types of applications like that, which really, can really push your sense of depth within a scene. Okay, here's where our tests are going to start coming into play. Let's apply some of this. Here, we'll do this right here. Do you see where that yellow is really starting to disappear within that space? So we get that nice texture going in that, but it's really integrating in that background. Now I've applied this over here, and there's some yellow in here. That's really showing up a lot more over here because that application of the paint over this level of darkness stands out more, but in here it's really integrated. Okay. I mean, I think that looks good, but it'd be nice to have some of that opacity. So let's test out the Lan Ren Wang, okay? I need to write to them and say, hey, I don't know. The name of that brand should be like, how about like Paint Magic, or, you know, Color Magic or something like that. I can't remember the names of this. Okay. All right. So let's go in. Okay. Now this one's not quite as light as the other one. So it's a darker version. Okay. So I don't know how much it'll show up. Oh, I'll use the white one too. Okay. So going in here like so. But let's see if this one stands out or retains its opacity. I don't know if I needed to go in and heat set or anything like that. I don't think I need to, but let's try it this out anyway. Okay, so that is some of the yellow like that. I don't know if you can see that. You can emboss that too, and that would be pretty cool. I don't think I want to emboss this particular scene, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. Oh, the graffiti markers. When the graffiti one, no, okay, no, the graffiti ones are all 3mm. Okay. Those ones come in. They look like this. All right. It says 2 to 3mm, but they're all 3mm. I don't know why these companies get this wrong. These pens right here, these are 3mm up here, right? They're that bullet tip size. And these ones down here, you know, in comparison are 0.7. Okay, so you have this as a 0.7, right? It's that extra fine tip like that. Okay. In comparison to the felt style tip like that, right? I mean, they're totally different tips, but this one says 0.7 on there, and this one says 0.7. That is not a 0.7 right there. So, I don't know. They made a mistake. I'm pretty sure, you know, that doesn't look like that to me. Okay, so let's observe this right here. Okay, so those were some darker yellows on there. The darker yellows to me are not integrating and blending in as much as the other ones, but it's kind of hard to see because it's yellow. Here, let me go in with it. Okay, now this is a metallic glitter yellow. Okay. Now this is going to be practically invisible, okay? Unless I hold this up to the light, I think. Okay, I didn't shake this up. Shake up before you use these types of pens like this, but I want to get a little bit of that bling going in here, especially in these lighter areas like that. It's kind of a subtle bling, okay? You're not going to be able to see this. This one is the neon glitter one, okay? It also comes in metallic and more of that pearl type of look. Glad you like the rocks, Sandy. I spend a lot of times on rocks. People aren't really drawn to rocks in terms of a natural element, but they really set the foundation for your scenes. If you have kind of rocks in a scene, it kind of gives the whole world kind of a, even if it's in a meadow, okay, all grass, if you put a couple of rocks down there or something like that, or a rock in the foreground, it really kind of creates this foundation of stability within a scene. I mean, they kind of represent stability, right? So from an emotional standpoint, it's like something that we can go stand in. If there was a rock in the middle of a field and you feel like going and sitting down somewhere, you would probably go, as long as the rock's nice and smooth and everything like that, not if it's, you know, jagged or something like that. But, you know, we're drawn to that, you know, if we're hiking somewhere to a summit and there's dirt, you know, and whatever, trees around, and there's this nice rock, that's where we're going to go sit down on. So I really spend a lot of time on rocks. I love all stamps, okay? and by all companies, but I tend to judge whether or not someone can really draw based on their rocks, because rocks come in different textures and patterns and things like that. And I look for stability, how they've drawn it. Does it look like it has visual weight to it? And then I look to see how well they render and if their kind of textures on the rocks are the same as like textures of the grass. You know what I mean? It kind of stands out a little bit to me. I'm really, particular when it comes to, when I'm drawing rocks. It has to be just right. I spend a lot of time out in places like Joshua Tree and Yosemite, with the granite out there, and the rose granite in Joshua Tree. It looks different. It's just a different texture than a rock in another location. All right, so here comes the white. This is really going to be a really good test right here of that opacity right there, okay? So let's see how it goes. I should use the white in that graffiti pen on here too. I never would have used a 3mm pen in any of my scenes until a year ago when I got this set. I thought, okay, let's just try it out. Then I was thinking about it more in terms of like a kind of a hot, kind of a pointillism type of piece or something like that, kind of extreme, but I don't know, it integrates fairly well after I add in that white pigment ink in here, kind of like a little fogging effect. Oh, mountains. Yeah, mountains are a really good one too. And again, a lot of mountains are, rock too. So I look for different textures and lighting on those mountains there. Yeah, I judge things have to have a certain type of grace to it, okay? And rocks aren't seen typically as something graceful. They're looking at, something like hard and solid and stable or whatnot, okay? But rocks, they have a character to them. There's nothing more that shows kind of the history of, or the weather patterns of a given area. Are they smooth? Are they sculpted? They're sculpted from wind and weather, water, everything like that. So I want my rocks, to be nice and stable, but I not want them to also have the grace of, I don't know, a tree or something like that, kind of noble maybe in some ways. It's like the sentinels of the valley that you're stamping out, or, if it's a large mountain or something like that. Okay, so going in here and adding in, can you guys see that right in there? So that white up there is, it's a little bit translucent. It's not just completely disappearing in the background, but it's not completely dry yet though. Okay, so adding that in. Okay, and I'm not moving that out everywhere, okay? This is a really great spot for the Dr. Martens bleed proof white in here too. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna use it in here. I want kind of some finer kind of, this is very, this is hand done, so you can get kind of that looking texture in there, but it's really good to kind of play around with some, I don't know, it'd be good to use even like a smaller version of it too. You can use, smaller dots in here too, just to contrast against that. But if you want to really go for, a huge amount of kind of textural contrast, then, splatter painting is pretty cool to go with. All right. Oh my gosh, I didn't clean this off. I'm going to have to clean off my brush here. I don't want to leave the live stream again. Okay, so I'm just squeezing that out. We're using our applicator for this reason right here too. So the Dr. Martens, There's nothing, there's no other paint that just goes back into solution as easy as Dr. Martin's, I'm convinced. Nothing that I've ever experienced in my art education and whatnot. Okay, so that was really stiff, and now just spraying a little water on it, this brush is ready to go, okay? All right, so Dr. Martin's Blade Proof White. People have used other things, you know, if they can't have access to something like this. If this is the type of something that you like the look of, I'd recommend a bottle of it. One bottle will last you a very long time if you're using it in an application like this, which is, you know, really sparingly. Okay. Kind of have to stir it up a little bit every time because it really separates. It's probably the reason why it's so easy to clean off anything. And you're just kind of taking this and you're putting a little bit in the tip like this, okay? And then you're squeezing off a lot of it, okay? Because I don't need a lot of it. Okay, and I'm going for a fairly close application because a lot of times if I'm doing like stars or snow, then I'm holding it out here so it gives it that splatter, but I'm going down here into my base of the waterfall. So let's zoom in like this. All right, Fran, thanks for joining in. Have a nice rest of day, evening, etc. Okay, so can you see that? Oh, it's focusing on my hand here. Oh, let's see. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's okay, so I'm kind of going for right in here, okay? And I'm just kind of releasing a couple little, you know, hairs at a time, then I'm going back. Okay, I'm not going zip, you know, over the whole thing. You just kind of go like this, okay? Oops, I'm getting it splattered down here, but who cares? And you just keep adding, you know, as much as you want or as little as you want. I apparently want a lot because I keep doing it. Okay, so that is that. See, it gets on your finger like that, but you know, that'll wash off just really easy, unlike the Marvy inks. But if you have a pumice sponge, it'll come right off. But you see that? Look at the action right down there now. See, I mean, there was those larger, like 3mm dots. I mean, this is like as tiny a dot as you can possibly get. But that's where the bleed proof white is a really good one for this. You can use, I know people that have taken correctional pens, and I don't know how they did it. They went like this with it, or, you know, and they splattered their scene. Maybe it was for stars and not something so specific like that. But Dr. Martin's bleed proof white, I've used it too much, Froggy Fresh, so you can't read the label. But it's an opaque white watercolor paint. But see, the thing about that is, even like the tiniest of little dots are opaque. I mean, look at that. See that little pattern back in there? I don't know what that is. It's like a 1/10 of a millimeter or something like that. That's probably like, I don't know. That's like a 1/2 millimeter dot right there. But look how much that stands out. And see that right in here? See how that extra texturing kind of incorporated in those larger dots like that. Let's take a look at the, okay, now see those dots up there? Yeah, they're not quite white, okay, but they're not too bad. The other ones just, I think, would have really blended in. Let me see if I can get a little of that. Okay, now do you see that? Okay, do you see that little glare in there from that glitter pen? You can't see it. Now look at how that comes to life. See all that in there? Is that coming to life right in there with the lighting like that? All right. So that's what that metallic pen did. See, it's not like I'm looking at this and it's like metallic leaves or something like that. It just, when you add those little metallic touches like that with that glitter pen, it catches the light at certain angles, you know, like an object would, and then you see that those areas come to life a little bit more. So that's really fun. Okay, so that is that. Those are crisp applications of texture. There's something that needs to go in there, though, isn't there? Shouldn't it? This is like, we've created kind of a stage for some kind of subject matter, but it's like we haven't stamped anything in there. I usually stamp a deer in the background. I don't know. I'll think of something. Dr. Martens. Yeah, Martin. Here we go. Let me put it down here. All the things are always in the description area of these videos. So if you're ever curious about anything I use, Dr. Martens bleed proof white. Calligraphers use it a lot to do their letter forms and you know, to dip pens and things like that. I got hit in the face with a football today. My jaw aches a bit. Oh my gosh. How did that happen? You gotta always, what does they say? Keep your eye on the ball, huh? I wipe my Dr. Martens stir tool on my brush. That's a good idea, Candy. Okay, so white pigment ink on the cotton ball. This pad is kind of dry, okay, so I'm going right in there, and I don't have a ton of ink on here, okay. Kind of smash that down a little bit like that, so you don't have this frayed kind of cotton ball area. And it also pushes some ink back up into the cotton ball, okay. And you start applying it in areas where light meets dark. So this is a lighter area, and this is a darker object right next to it, right? So you just kind of go in there. I can't see anything because I'm applying it in the light area, right? And then you just kind of creep that into this darker object or area, and you get that kind of that misty. I took too much ink off. And that's better than putting on too much and getting blobs, right? Okay, see that right there? See that illumination right there? It's like that mist, and it incorporates in your textures. So if I didn't get this done really smoothly or anything like that, I got really harsh applications of that shadow area, and it doesn't matter because you can just, you know, blend it out like this, okay? So see this right here? I'm taking this in, and here's what I'm doing. I'm tapering it. I have more here in the light, and then as I move across, I'm kind of doing a lighter touch, okay? And I'm kind of tapping less on my paper, so it's kind of going like this. Then I kind of go up, you know. I lift like that, so it's kind of like lifting it off, and you get that tapering right there, okay? So it's not like a hard application of white, and it's just like white solid, and then up. It's kind of tapering it off, okay? Or you just do less taps, right? So it's just right here, like that. Going there. And it's not precarious because you just, it's going to be more precarious if you have a lot of ink on here, okay? So I can go like this, and it's like, you know, there's hardly anything happening because there's so little ink. But when it's in the darker area, of course, you know, white against this black is going to show up more. But watch this right here, okay? I don't know how many taps that was, like 30, right? And I just have that little bit of white showing, right? So that is complete control. Now, if you want to have a lot of control, then maybe it took 40 taps to get that. I don't want that, you know, that many taps to, you know, have to, you know, use that. But, you know, a few little taps, you know, I divide kind of that application, my whatever I want, more spread out so that the application of every single tap is just, you know, there's nothing that can really go wrong with it. You know, if one tap is like invisible, you know, then I don't know, 10 taps is going to give you just that little bit of illumination. Look at this. I'm putting it at the base of some of these trees like this. So a little bit of this fog. No, it's not water, but it's a little bit of fog or something like that. Yeah, a hiker would be good. Uh-oh. That doesn't sound like a Nerf ball to me. Or was it? Was it a Nerf ball? A Nerf ball kind of soaked with water would be tough. Okay, look at this right here. Kind of adding in that little kind of misty kind of feel. And there, see this rock right here? But again, I'm putting it next to that rock because it's very light next to it. But look at that right there. Okay, so this rock right here, let's put it, you know, a little veil of mist like that. It just kind of makes it a little bit more kind of magical and whimsical when you have this kind of soft type of these soft textures within any type of piece, because you're really expanding on your textural range, its lighting, etc. I still need to do those birch trees though with the white paint pen. Okay, I'm adding in some of this lighting coming through the trees like this. You can even do light beams in here if you want to. These leaves in this opening are getting a little bit more of a illuminated treatment like that. Okay, so it looks like that. Okay. A bear catching fish would be cool. If you did something like that, you have to really put it in an area. Don't stamp an object next to an area or that has a really dark area behind it, okay? So that you get the full silhouette of that shape. The easiest silhouette of a shape would be right in here because there's nothing in back of it. So if I was putting fisherman in here, you want to make sure that it's like down in this area and like the head isn't going up into the rocks, into the shadows. Otherwise, you're going to have a dark on dark situation, okay? Okay, so let's go in with our lighting in here. And let's put the lighting on the side of the trees, trunks, facing the light, okay? So I'm just kind of breaking up this trunk a little bit, or a lot, in terms of that line, like that, okay? See how much fun these white paint pens are. Now look at that lighting direction. You have it illuminated on that side. You don't have to just do it all up the whole thing. I mean, have some of it showing, you know. And see, I'm just kind of doing it in a, I wouldn't say haphazard, but kind of in a choppy way. You can add some of the textures going across there like that. Have some of it more illuminated, you know. Over here in the darkness, you see I'm putting just a few little dots on the side of the tree facing the light. On this side of the scene, those trees will be right side illuminated. So see this, like this line right here bothers me, okay? Because it's going into the light. So go like this and just break that up a little bit like this. You don't have to break it up because we want to still kind of have an idea of the lighting direction or the shape of the tree, okay? But see, you just kind of put some of it on like that. And that is that, okay? So the trees look a little bit more three-dimensional that way. I think this trunk right here, this has a really strong kind of outline. I'm going to increase the shadow on that side, like that. Okay. And I mean, you can do that for everything. You can do that, you know, on tops of some rocks if you want to. Some of these rocks are capturing some of that lighting, okay? Like this. See this? I've retained a little bit of that light on this rock, so it's given me the opportunity to go back in and add a little bit of a additional edge lighting or something like that. And that's where not coloring them all in completely uniform really comes into play here too. Like this white would really stand out in these areas down here that are darker, but on the areas that are a little bit lighter, you can add that nice texturing on there. Okay. And going back to what we were talking about rocks, you know, rocks have, you know, there's just so much texture in rocks and character to them. You can really make them, you know, ultimately, you know, rocks, unless you're doing something super majestic, you know, you're doing, you know, some mountain in the background or something like that, and it's really the star of the scene, you know, it's soaring above it, whatever, 14,000 feet or something like that. But otherwise, these rocks are kind of, you know, they're just kind of providing somewhat of the foundation for these trees and leaves, and if I put something in here. But they can also be, you know, the star of the scene or the ultimate kind of like co-star, you know, supporting characters or whatnot. And a lot of it is just in how you treat them like that. Let's see. Yeah, Candy has a fear of the highlights, huh? Well, add it into those areas where it's invisible. Like, see right here in this rock, you can't see anything, right? Because I've retained that light. Where people get really scared is they go like this and they add it in like a super dark area like that, right? And it really stands out, okay? It's like, oh my gosh, that looks kind of weird. But, you know, if you're doing it on glossy cardstock, it'll just rub right on. You can see right on here, it just rubbed right off. Now on this matte paper, if I let that dry, it might be kind of stuck there, but, you know, I don't know. You just kind of add it in, and just keep in mind that when you add it in one area, it's going to really stand out. You're going to have to add it in as a common texture going throughout your piece. So, you know, like these little dots up here and these leaves really stood out, okay? I'm going to blend those out even more, though. But, yeah, it really brings an area to life, though. But if you look around, everywhere you're sitting, every one of you, even if you're sitting, like, in some kind of dark room or something like that, everything that you're looking at, all these colored pencils, okay, no matter what color, okay, maybe not right there. But see, if I go like this, okay, do you see that there's highlights? Like this black has this long line of white highlight on it. This blue one has that same, and it's the same value of lighting on there. You can see my shirt here, okay? There's the shades of light and dark within it, okay? But if I really hold it up, you know, and put a light, you know, a bright light next to it, I mean, I have a highlight all over my face, you know. It's kind of hot in here. I'm sweaty. Not that sweaty, but you know what I mean? There's highlights on me. And if you take away all these highlights, then things don't look as dimensional. I mean, look at this thing right here. Look at this right here. You take that out, and this piece looks flatter, right? Look at this. It's like that satiny type of black plastic, right? But satiny black has that illumination on there. And that's what we're creating here with these. So in terms of like creating something really super three-dimensional in appearance, it really requires the use of that reflected light. Okay, now one of the things that you can also do too is like, say, white really stands out a lot, okay? So, this is going back into my Artistro pen set, okay? Here's a blue, right? And it's much more of the spirit of like this blue right here, okay? It's like a light blue. So this isn't going to stand out quite as much, right, as white because there's less contrast. So, you know, where I added those little highlights down here. Now see where I'm adding in those highlights right in here? I mean, you can barely see them, right? Because this blue is darker than the white. So the contrast between that blue and that darker background isn't as extreme. So you can add in these lighter versions of a highlight, you know, to kind of get your bearings, okay? Now see this white right up in here on this rock, up in the lighter areas, that would be too much down here, right? But if you want to get some three-dimensional types of looks into those darker rocks, then just add a darker highlight, or you can put it out, you can spread it out more like this, you know, where it's, you have the texture of the rock too. It doesn't have to represent lighting, it could just be, I don't know, lichen or moss on a rock, something like that. Okay, so you see that area down here. So suddenly you've given this little area on that bottom of the rock a little bit of character by adding in some additional reflective texture. So we were adding in some of these little things like that might represent moss, right? Let's go in and grab, let's grab something like, I don't know how this is going to look, but let's grab in something like this green. Look at this. I probably never even used this green before. Um, oh, that was a Nerf ball that hit you. I was going to say, yeah, I don't think they'd be playing in the pool, throwing out, like a, pigskin leather ball around. But, yeah, Nerf balls filled with water. Not too good. I remember we used to play, I went to my cousin's house one time, and we were throwing around we were playing football in the streets, that's what you did, right, as kids, right in the middle of the street, and we threw, my cousins, we didn't live close to them, so we were hardly ever at their house, but he was playing with all his friends, and so we were playing with a real football, and okay, so I'm putting in some of these green little touches onto these rocks, okay? Now, I don't think you're going to be able to see these touches in here. You can see it a little bit. See, that's like where I'm adding that right in here. So I'm adding in this texture, and I'm getting this green hue in here, but it is practically invisible, when we're looking at it like that. But you get that in there, so you're getting that texture in there. Like down here in this rock, I was thinking it could be like a little bit of lichen or something like that in the boulders with lichen stamp. So again, you're going with similar values over similar values. So it's like that same value of green in that area. So it's like it's a little bit of a kind of a head start on lighting. You can just be going for a little bit of texture. Actually, you can really see that green up there. Okay, so I added a little bit too much of that. Let me tone that down a little bit. Let's go in with, let's go into that blue again. Oh, so anyways, yeah, we were playing football, and someone threw, I don't know, someone went out for a long bomb or something like that, and the real football hit this car windshield and cracked it. And oh my God, we're in trouble. So it's like, hey, go out and switch to the Nerf. I don't know. That was the cousin's friend's response, and so it was really the real ball that I don't know what they thought. They thought they were going to get in less trouble if they said it was the Nerf ball and it cracked the windshield. Maybe it's demonstrating a little bit of a our I don't know, thought going into it. Like we weren't just being careless with the regular football, but when I went home after that, it was like when we were playing with a Nerf ball in the street, it was like my mom would say, "Hey, remember, that one time, at in LA, you guys broke the windshield with the Nerf ball." But I was thinking, yeah, but it wasn't the Nerf ball though, really. It was the real Nerf ball. Anyways, that reminded me of that. Okay, so anyways, I'm going to mellowing that out a little bit. Okay, so you see that little green down there and stuff, okay? I mean, this is like seen at this arm's length. Okay, so you see all those little things that I did in here. Let's see, let's get rid of that line a little bit more. So these trees are a little bit more kind of integrated and, transparent. I don't know, not transparent, but translucent. You get the lighting kind of showing through them. It's a very different texture going up here, but when you add in common textures like this with this pigmenting, it represents lighting and everything like that. Everything kind of comes together, so you don't have to have like perfect applications. This background of this rock in here, you know what I mean? It didn't match up at all, but by the time you add in all these other things like that, I don't think it really matters. You're kind of pushing everything back in terms of a texture. Then you're adding another texture in here, and that's going off on top of that. I'm thinking about adding maybe like a foreground elements in here too, and I think that would be good. Yeah. Sherry, goodbye, Sherry. Thanks for joining in. Hello, Jeannie. Yeah, you should, Jeannie. It's fun. Do it in your kind of expressive, style that we all love. So I was talking about expressionism and adding things in. Jeannie's like a stamp expressionist with certain types of applications on a lot of her scenes, which is really fantastic. Okay, so let's see here. Let's add in, oh, okay. I was gonna say, what, let's see. Let's do this, okay? A lot of times I add in things, not just, you know, like something like this. All right, do you see these like forms at the bottom of the birch trees? These, you know, these little shoots coming off like that, okay? I'm going to add something like that that's reminiscent to that in the foreground. So a lot of times in the foreground, I like to add real spindly looking things because they're not so full. I mean, I can add in leaves like that, and I think that would be kind of interesting to have that same type of leaf formation. It's too late for it down here, though, because that's really dark. So things like this, though, can add depth without covering things up, okay? So we don't want to cover things up, you know, if we have some kind of nice things going on in there. But we want a little bit of, you know, depth in terms of larger objects in space. I still want to put something up in there. Let's do this with the Claire, okay? Since I'm doing this on the matte style of paper, it will take the Claire just fine and it will dry on there. Unlike glossy, in which we would have to emboss it. You can emboss on this too, that would be kind of interesting. I don't think I'm going to emboss on this one, though. All right, let's see if I can get this done. This is I'm using a smaller block here just for the portion I'm going to be using, okay? It's going like this. It's another one down here, like, I don't know, this is like a little bush or something like that. Okay, so it's just a little, you know, thing kind of to mimic some of the forms that are going on in the background. And plus, the larger things you have in the foreground, I mean, you don't have to have everything, but if you have something kind of within arm's reach, it puts us as a viewer of the scene kind of in the scene a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a kind of a transportive, you know, immersion, so to speak, into the scene with those types of close objects. So my recommendation is to go, you know, fairly large, you know, in your scenes like that sometimes. I don't know what that would represent. It doesn't mean it's, you know, within a foot away from us or something like that. But, you know, it's almost like you can reach out and touch it, okay? All right, so I might put, let's see what I have in here. You know what, I might just put some birds in the background. Okay, let's see what I have here. I'm going to use just a few of these birds like that. So I'll go like that, maybe. So I'll ink it up, and then I'll wipe off a lot of them around there. Hello, Crystal Fire Creations. Good to see you. Kind of getting close to finishing this. I have a few more touches to put on this one, though. And I think I might add in some more of those paint pen things too in here to go for a little bit more opacity up front. Here I almost forgot too. I have all these blue glitter pens too. Let me adjust the exposure on this one. Again, it's gotten darker, so let's see. As my scenes get darker, I have to adjust for the exposure compensation. That's a little bit closer to what it is, but I have all these, you know, those metallic and like blue glitter pens now too. So I can put some of that shimmery little touches down here that would be kind of invisible, but then you hold it up at that angle, and I think I can get a little bit more kind of action or whatever down in that water area. Okay, let me see here. All right, so a few little birds in that background. Well, we could still stamp a little bit of something in there if we want. I don't know. Okay, so let me do that, but let me look through this here. I need to keep in mind, anytime I gotta watch out for that VersaFine Clear there, it's still real wet. Anytime I get like this new media, I have to kind of keep it in mind. Conscious kind of awareness of all these different colors. So, okay, so these ones right here, I'm not sure which one's the glitter and which one's there's a pearl, a metallic, and there's a pearl, metallic, and neon glitter. Okay, pearl, metallic, and neon glitter. Those are the three different types of pens, and I can't tell from the look of it, the barrels, which one's which. Okay. And then they come in different, different values. So, different value, light and dark and whatnot. Look, I haven't even used this one yet. Have I used this one yet? Okay, use this one. That one, I don't know, that one looks like a metallic to me. These ones aren't, this one looks like a little bit closer to that color though, down in the water, huh? Okay, let's see. Get it feeding. Did you see that all that ink just come down in a hurry? Okay, let's see. Pump it a little bit, but don't pump it too much, okay? Get that ink flowing, or paint flowing. And ready to go. Okay, so that one, okay, this one's a little bit more of a turquoisey, dark turquoise, okay? So let's test this out here. Okay, so adding. Okay, now this is darker, so I don't have anything real dark down there, but I'm adding in some of these little touches like this. I'm trying to add it in those areas that are as dark or darker than the background. I put it in some areas that are lighter, okay? So let's go with that. Let me see what else. Let me see if I have a lighter version in here. I could use a sky blue, but they don't have like a sky blue light color. And it's probably because people are using most of these pens on white paper, so they really want it to stand out for them. Okay, so let's go with that. Oh, I guess silver could have worked too. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, silver would be the one to use, I think. Shake up. Oh, okay, this one's new too. Let's see. Flowing. Sorry, I didn't get these. Like I said, I didn't know what I was going to be using, or I didn't know what the scene was going to look like either. Okay. I've done this kind of composition before with other tree trunks in the background, but I wanted this one to be kind of more shimmery and light. With taking in these pens, having these pens in mind. Okay, this is silver metallic. Anyone ever use stickles? You can use little glittery types of applications in here as well. And that would be kind of cool. All right, here, let me see. It's the more textural this is getting and glittery, I feel like I should add in a little bit more kind of a balance into things like these leaves here. So I'm just adding in a little bit more white. I'm doing it in the detail. I'll do it in the detail extra fine point though. Okay, here we go. I don't want it to look like overly busy though, so I'll be mindful of that kind of. Kind of incorporating those little metallics in there a little bit more. Okay, fine tuning. Let's hit this. Let's hit those birds with a little bit of a white pigment ink to kind of push them back a little bit into the background and integrate them with the surrounding area. Okay, so taking some of this. Let's take a look at some of those birds. How about we do this over some of these birds? Maybe I'll put those smaller birds a little bit, I'll push them into the background a little bit more by making them lighter than that larger one. Like about like so. I want a little bit more streaming light right in this area too, so I'm going to lighten up this area right in here. All right, let's take a look here. All those glitter options sound pretty good. I don't know what the clear stardust is, but I sure like the name of that stardust. Froggy Fresh, I think you should do it in both night and day, spring and winter. If you do a train at night, then you can do that light beam coming out of it too, you know, with your white pigment ink. Yeah, stickles, a little bit of stickle type of thing going on down here. So let's let me show you what this is down here too. So we see, you know, scene like that, right? And then let's see the those little metallics down here, or you know, you can go with, you know, some of those little stickles or something like that. But see, like this down here, I like these little touches these days. See, like, okay, can you see these dots down here? They don't look so good when they're like dark like that, but see that right there? See how they illuminate and capture that light? So it's really making the surface of the water kind of shimmer a little bit more like that. You know, provided, you know, the recipient of your card or, you know, just us, when looking at it, you know, are looking at it in different lighting. Look at that right there with that silver like that. Here, let me, I need to cut down the contrast again. So let me go like this. Okay, here we go. So again, illumination, non-illumination. I mean, you can put that, you know, those types of glittery types of touches everywhere, you know, or wherever you want. You can put it on some of the rocks. I think it'd look good on some of the trees up here, you know. Anything to get, you know, people to look at your piece kind of closer and, you know, where they can enjoy it on multiple levels. Okay, so those dots are down there too. Now let's go in and let's alter some of these dots. Let's go in and I'll just kind of dampen some of them a little bit, you know, so that we have the same color dots in there, but you're just changing the character of some of them with a little bit of this pigment ink, right? I mean, you can add some of this in here, then you can go back in and add more, you know. It's a little bit more of a circular process when you're doing different, you know, multimedia. You can add something, go back in, subtract, whatever. On this thing too, I mean, I didn't even use something like alcohol pens. You can go and add alcohol pens in little areas that you want if you want to. Let's say you didn't have colored pencils or something like that. You can go in with you know, a alcohol pen and you can add in your shadows, you know, a little bit more with your alcohol pens or whatever, you know. The thing that, you know, you can't add in with something like alcohol pens is opacity. Just keep in mind, you know, the things that are a little bit more opaque, the things that are translucent, and the things that are transparent, or, you know, whatever variations of them, you know, are. You know, you can get somewhat of a fairly opaque application of this, but you really have to do a lot of layers with it, okay? Okay, so anyways, do you see down here, see that blue right around here is a little bit darker than There's a couple of blue ones around here that are a little bit softer now, so so that it might not be quite as reflective, but that might be good because there's less look at that. You can really see that shining like that, and that kind of disappears, that white in there. And this is a little bit out of focus, but yeah, so okay, so that reflective nature of all of those in there has changed a little bit. But again, it's all about variation and whatnot. So this looks pretty good, like round like that. I'm trying to hold this up so it doesn't get the glare of the light that's on it, like that. All right, so that is that. So my initial tests in terms of the those pens here too, I'm still kind of see that white up there. I get a pretty distinct, little dot. I did my initial test with these paint pens like this on glossy cardstock, and it looks pretty good. They're nice and opaque, and their flow is really good. Doing it here when I'm layering color upon color, it stood out pretty good. Now look at this, see in here too? You can see those little metallics in there. Look at those leaves, how they just kind of come to life like that, and it's like invisible like that too. Okay, so that's that neon glitter. The neon glitter was more watery, so it's not as opaque, but it has the reflective glitter in it, so you get the benefit of that. So, you know what I mean? And there's all kinds of little things like that to play around with on these, and I'm just kind of barely touching on the potential of that type of effect, where you have those kind of invisible types of things, but at a different angle, they kind of reveal themselves or whatnot, or they reveal their characteristics or benefits. Oh, I can add in some, like I said, I'm not going to add it in right now because that Claire right there is still wet. I'm pretty sure you can see it's still kind of shiny. That ink right in there, kind of, it's a little bit blurry, but I might go in here and add a little bit of like green leaf buds on here. I think that might be kind of interesting. Oh, okay, so speaking of that, let's go and add a couple little touches in here too. Let's put some of these leaves down on the rocks in here. Lynn, I am using the semi-gloss Mohawk Everyday Digital White Coated Silk. If I don't say that for a few days, I have to rethink that all. The Wink of Stella. I do have the Wink of Stellas. I completely forgot about the Wink of Stellas. Mine might be completely dry by now, so the Wink of Stellas would be excellent. Yeah, up there. Okay. Yeah, the Stickles. That would be great flowers. Okay, so let's add in, I'm just going to add in some little of these yellow drops or kind of lime green, I guess, not yellow. Yellow green, I guess. Leaves on here. I mean, I don't know if they represent a leaf or something like that, but it puts a little bit of that down there. It kind of gives it that kind of feeling. Okay. I mean, it's not like you can see, oh my gosh, there's a green dot there. But again, it's just kind of something a little subtle. Now, I mean, this is supposed to be spring, so I mean, a tree's not dropping a bunch of green leaves everywhere. But, it stands to reason there might be a few of them, that color here and there. Or it just might be just that these rocks are kind of reflecting some of that green shimmering light that's, coming through the leaves and reflecting on the rocks in there. So a little bit more color incorporation again. So yeah, the Wink of Stella. Gosh, I haven't used those in a long time. They work really fantastic, huh? Let me see. I didn't think I was going to use it because I didn't think it would be flowing, but look at that. Or I don't know, my head's in the way. Wait a minute. This is like gold here. The gold, I think the green always look. Oh, this isn't green, this is gold. I don't know why they did that lime green for the gold. I think I don't have like too many colors of it. I did, oh, here's clear. Okay, well, here's clear. Okay, well, it seems to be flowing. Do you have to shake these up or what? Yeah, it could be moss. Yeah, okay, this is showing here. So let's see. Okay, so this is clear, Wink of Stella. Yeah, I'm going a little bit more extreme, but this one, this is supposed to be like this kind of a shimmery test card. So why not go a little bit nuts? I'm putting some in my waterfalls, okay, like this. And again, this is the clear. I have no idea if I can't even see it, so I'm not even sure if it's coming out of there. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, I can see it. It's a little bit that. Let me see if I can focus in here. A little bit of that iridescent. Yeah, I'm gonna have to zoom in as much as I can. But okay, see that? Yeah, see that right there and down there. I can't get the light. Okay, here we go. Yeah, see that right here. Watch this right here. See that? And you're saying, hey, Kevin, if you have to work so hard just to see it, what use is it? I mean, you can add more, but I don't know. It's one of those things. If someone has that light hitting it kind of in the right area. I don't even know where I used it on these other ones. Okay, I put it up in these waterfalls too. Oh, maybe that shimmery kind of reflection off of the white area maybe it doesn't stand out as much. Oh, here. Let me see. I have to do it now. Okay, let me see if that shows up at all. Okay, a little bit. Okay, yeah, see that right there? I put it like right in here, so. I mean, it has a little bit of different consistency. The clair is almost shining as much, but that's because it's wet. Okay, but you see that right in there at the top of that? That's capturing some of that light. Okay, Crystal Fire, you might have opened a can of worms. Now I feel like doing like that Wink of Stella everywhere in here, but I don't want to do that right now. But it's kind of cool. Okay, I haven't used this. I haven't used this in a really long time. I'm into bling, in my pieces, but it might be a little bit more of a subtle bling, over a lot of, the card or pieces. I don't know if you can see that in there or if it's showing. Okay, that might be very subtle. I probably need to shake it up like, oh, no. Yeah, you see that in there? Boy, that really kind of makes them pop, doesn't it? I'm talking about this area right in here. Huh. Well, okay, so that is my birch in, I don't know, the birch falls piece right there. Hope you enjoyed it. I think I'm done. The Wink of Stella opened up a whole big can of worms, though. We might have to add a lot more of it in certain areas. I'm going to let this dry a little bit, especially with that clair down here. Yeah, I don't think I shook it up enough, but I don't know. Maybe that gave it a little bit more of a kind of a subtle application or whatnot. The Wink of Stella pens were the big item, I think, when I went to the Mesa, Arizona stamp convention. It was, I don't know, it might be 3 years ago, because they did that year off with the, all the lockdowns and everything. But everyone was walking around buying the Wink of Stella pens at this booth that had them there. I was like, what is that? So they showed me. So I bought the gold, silver, and clear. And a lot of people were saying just get the clear because you can use that over anything, any color that you already have. But I do like gold and silver too, so I don't know. I got those ones. I didn't get them there at the show because I couldn't leave the booth, but I got them afterwards. It might have even been in a pack, like a 3-pack or something like that. So yeah, Jeannie likes her bling too. We should add in you can add in things like little raised crystals on something like this too if you want to. I don't know if I would do that, but You did this, and we were talking about Froggy Fresh was talking about doing that train. Should you do a train in daytime or nighttime? Well, it depends on what you want. Do you want a nighttime type of sky, with little crystals in your sky or something like that? That would be cool. You can do a sunset scene. Like I said, do it in spring, fall, winter. You can do it in black and white too, and do it in color. Maybe it could be a thematic type of a piece or something like that. Oh, Candy, I took her from dinner to bedtime. Hope you enjoyed it. You can go into this location here in your dreams, or, go and, I don't know, go and listen to the sounds of the falls. Nothing like running water, huh? Debbie, good night. Have a nice rest of the evening. We'll see you in a future live stream. Jeannie's gonna go and stamp this out. Jeannie will do it on a full size piece of paper, huh? Full sheet, 8.5 by 11 maybe. Yeah. Yeah, the train at night would be a really fun one. That would be, you can do all kinds of things with the pigment ink. Especially if it was like a steam locomotive, you can have that steam coming out from around the wheels, the track, and that would be really cool. You can have it illuminated by the moonlight for or something like that. I think that would be really cool. So, thank you, Cindy. Thanks for joining in. Thanks everyone for joining this scene live stream. Fun scene to do, yeah. I need to do some vellum with those birch again, though. I really miss doing vellum pieces. Yeah. I'll try that out sometime. You know what I'll do is maybe, thing is I have to use that spray adhesive outside, so, well, I'll figure it out. For a live stream application. All right, Beverly, Jeannie, everyone, for those that didn't, for that might be joined in, that didn't comment, you don't have to comment, but thanks for joining in to all of you as well, and for checking out the live stream. We'll see you on a future piece. Thanks, Vanessa. Easy applications, easy techniques. Should look easy. We never want an easy application to look hard, but we want easy applications, end result, to look very hard, right? You never want to give a card to someone and they say, oh, boy, what a nice, easy card. But you don't want the process to be hard to do in terms of, all of the different applications and whatnot, and techniques for certain. I've never known you started by stamping. Oh, yep. It's always stamping there, Marta. Yeah. So just one step at a time, easy techniques and whatnot. Make it an easy process by not trying to jump in from one step to the next too extremely, like going from a super light color to a super dark one or something like that. And when you're working with your darker tones, just kind of, blot them off a lot, before you start applying them onto your scene. And you'll be working with a very light shade of whatever color that you're applying. And you can always build up your, more intense tones. Nothing like super intense on this one, but from light to dark, and also from dull to bright, like that. And all these little textures and things like that, those all look really extreme in terms of a contrast, and they really stand out, kind of looking weird, okay? But you apply those textures and things like that over the entire piece, and for me, my ultimate weapon for kind of, color, texture, application continuity, brilliance, or just white pigment ink on a cotton ball, and just dabbed around in those lighter areas, throughout the piece, and it just brings everything together from a textural and lighting standpoint. So, you know, it can do a lot. It can remedy, it can repair. I can't, you know, I don't know, sell it as a process enough. It just does a lot of things for me. So, oh, you can refill Wink of Stella pens. Interesting, huh? Wink of Stella, they're great stuff. Yeah, I need to keep these. I mean, they're right here on my desk, but I don't know. I don't think to use them a lot of times. So, yeah, shimmery little lights or something like that. Wouldn't it be fun to do like a nighttime sky? And you have these little stars in there or something like that, and you can do a little Wink of Stella because it has that nice brush tip, and you do a little streak like that. So when you hold it up to the light, it can look like a bunch of, you know, shooting stars or something like that, a meteor shower type of thing with that little kind of tail going off of something. So all kinds of possibilities. Froggy Fresh, can you do a shooting star in your nighttime train scene, right? All right. So again, thanks for tuning in. Good night, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining in, and we'll see you on the next stream. Signing out.